Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience while we figured out the IT thing. It is March 14th at 6:02 p.m. and we will start this meeting of the McMinnville Fire Board of Directors. Call the meeting to order with Chief Godfrey. Would you lead us in pledge allegiance? Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll begin with roll call. Thank you. Roll call. Sorry.
President Garvin.
Here.
Vice President Smith.
Here.
Treasurer Trapp.
Here.
Secretary Pratt.
Here.
Member Sparrow, I don't see yet, but we'll keep an eye. Okay, sir.
Now,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that. Next item, any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Next item, set the agenda and approval of minutes from our February meeting.
February 22nd meeting. Should already,
Those were submitted to me and I compared them to my notes are perfect. I move to approve them as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion, a second to approve the February 22nd meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Aye. Next item, financial report, budget committee.
yeah, so we're still working through the, as we discussed last time, the transition of collecting all the data from the historical data from the city, the first 6-month data as the city and the district were combined. Now the last 3 months, as stated last time, we are balanced for the first 6 months. We are still working on that second 3 months and putting them in the budget forms so that we can also prepare for next year's budget preparation. So I hope we meet every Wednesday. I hope to have a better idea, probably not this Wednesday, well, about the Wednesday before our next meeting. So we're just working through, like I said, the numbers and making sure that they all zero out from all the different sources that we've had over the last couple of years. Budget committee, we do now have 6 budget committee members. So you do have at least your required quorum +1. So it's really kind of up to you guys if you want to leave it open for a little bit longer. I wouldn't say that there's a rush per se to elect them. Your board policy 15 does state, as discussed earlier, that February is the time in which you start at least putting them together. So I'm just saying there's not a need today to have them in pocket, but if you wanted to start the process, we could absolutely help you initiate that process for your interviews and selection.
Any board members like to see the budget committee application process extended? Or are we good to move on from here?
I would, considering we're a little bit of ways from having a budget that they would be reviewing, and we're closer on the civil service, I think it'd be nice to form our civil service and see if anybody from there that isn't appointed would like to possibly apply to the budget committee and leave it open for other general members of the public to apply as well, given that we have some time before budget's going to be presented. But I'm open. I'm not firm on that. If other board members have different ideas and would like to close it.
Okay. Director Sparrow is with us now on Zoom. Good evening. Dan, hello.
Hello. Sorry for my tardiness.
Thanks for being here. Okay, President Garvin, thank you for that. Anybody else want to make comments on that? Director Sparrow, the question is, do we want to extend the application process for budget committee members out a little ways since we have time and folks that may be applying for civil service might be interested also in the budget committee?
Copy.
Yeah.
We have consensus to extend the process, keep building.
We can do that. No other report on that at this time unless there's questions. Thank you.
Questions on budget committee?
Do we want to set a date to leave that open to? Like, do we want to leave it open until April 1st or April 15th or?
We could do the first board meeting in April if you wanted to, which should be the second Thursday. That date would be the 11th of April.
Okay, let's agree to leave it open until the 11th of April.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you for that. Next item is public comment. Do you have any statements from citizens like to make tonight, or anybody on Zoom? Okay, just a moment. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Next item is business action required. First up, seismic grant approval.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So as you guys have received in your packet, just in our due diligence, as we talked last month about, FEMA grants, we're just trying to look for outside grant monies to help alleviate some of the financial burden of the district. After our conference that Secretary Pratt and President Garvin and I went to, there was an engineering company that does seismic upgrades to fire stations. They do it to several things, but they're big into public safety. We got that information. Chief Darby reached out to him, set up a quick meeting. The way this works is it's up to $2.5 million award. It can be applied on an annual basis, so you can apply for it more than one time. The engineering firm actually writes the grant for you. Was it about 60%? A little more than 60%, if I remember correctly, success rate of their grants. There is no money out of pocket if you do not receive the grant. So we will be applying for $2.5 million to help seismically up. There was a study done a few years ago for this station, and it was in the $4 million mark. The advantage is our goal is to kind of separate the station and do one portion of it at one point and then reapply for another grant to do the other portion. Of course, we'll kind of follow the engineer's lead on what makes the most amount of sense, and of course, cost sense. If we are awarded the grant, the only out-of-pocket cost is $5,000, which is what you have in front of you right now. But like I said, if we don't receive the grant, if they're not successful in the grant writing, then there is no out-of-pocket cost. I wanted to bring it to you guys just specifically because it is a large sum of money, although not out-of-pocket money, but it is a large time commitment, if you will. We did ask for references. Chief Darby kind of vetted those, very positive feedback from other fire departments and districts in the state. They have multiple going on right now. They are familiar and capable of working, doing the seismic upgrades while occupying the fire station. So that was one of our, we don't really have nowhere else to go. So, and they're very capable and confident in doing that. So I bring it to you more as a reference, I guess. And then of course, a discussion piece, if you would rather we don't go forward for some reason, I'm open to that. Otherwise, I would be leaning towards signing the agreement, which just allows them to come in. They'll do a more thorough walkthrough of what we need, put together a scope of work and a budget, and then write the grant for us. And if successful, we would owe $5,000 to move forward with $2.5 million.
Okay. Question, is that state money? Where's that money come from?
It's the
Office of Emergency Management.
Yeah.
I think, I'm assuming it's probably better back, but it's
Spira or
Yes.
PH.
And then is there a requirement on timeline to use it?
Go ahead. Yep.
so right now, the grant they will be putting us in for the December-ish deadline. They don't have the exact date, and they still generally probably expect the award in January 25. And from the date of the award, we have 2 years pre-construction.
Okay.
And that's not only permits, they're done in 2 years.
And we feel that's achievable. We can do that.
They are very successful. They have multiple projects, and I would say the large majority of them, public safety style buildings. And they are very successful, yes.
Any penalty if we are not able to achieve that goal?
If you do not, any monies that, so it's basically pay as you go. So if, or reimburse as you go, if we surpass that deadline, any reimbursements after 2 years would not be. And also too, we would have to retain, stay in the building for 10 years to retain on support. Also, if we were just doing seismic, they estimated based on what the examination of the engineer is stopped by, it's about 3 to 6 months. The exception is if we roll other tenant improvements into it, which is not uncommon, so we would be older building. They did say 9 months or maybe a year, but that really depends on the scope of work.
And we still will get a scope of work and a cost before. So this isn't a we are. It is we are interested in moving forward. And we could still say, you know, no after the scope of work, or if it wasn't feasible, or if they couldn't. I know there was some concern before of exposed engineering, you know, that would take away some aesthetics and, you know, bay doors or things like that.
Yes.
That would not.
Understood. Okay.
You know, if they do the work themselves or if they hire contractors?
So yes, they do subcontract their general contractors. One thing to note too is that while they will be writing the grant for us, they will also still have to bid on it when we go out for a RFQ along with any other firms that might be interested. But this is they're kind of an all-in-one type. They do land use everything. So, but yes, they would, and they advise me that they do have few contractors that GCs that they would, that are knowledgeable in this scope of seismic because of it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions on this topic? What do you need from us?
Just a thumbs up unless you don't want me to do it.
No?
I'm good with it.
I'm seeing thumbs up.
Okay,
Go for it. Thank you.
thank you. Municipal Advisory Service Agreement, second attachment in your packet, the SDAO portion of it. So as discussed, and we've discussed a few times, as you all recall, we have a balloon payment for our loan for the engine and ladder truck that's due at the end of June. This agreement does need to be signed. This agreement is allowing the SDAO on our behalf to go out and start working to secure either an extension of the loan or a payoff of the loan. As we've discussed before, we talked about extending the loan and which would still allow us to pay off that balloon payment and extending the loan for 10 years to receive about 355,000, I'll call it cash value. That cash value, as I see it, would be earmarked for SCBA replacement for the out-of-date, no longer supported SCBAs. So the amortization schedules are attached also. It would keep our payment the same for what we've been paying historically. So there wouldn't be any change or any difference in that. It would just simply extend the loan to June of 34. June 15th of 34. There is other options to go out farther. The issue with those is those would require us to redo that every 10 years. So 10 years is where we can get to where we can get a secured loan and keeping the same payments we have. If we went out farther than that, we could look at that. However, we would have to refinance it after 10 years again, so.
Okay.
And Secretary Pratt, this is the gentleman we were talking to at the conference.
Any questions on this topic?
So kind of looking for two things. One, we need to go forward to refinance the loan, period. So that's really question number one. And then, question number two is, we have an option to go out and push the loan out 10 more years from today. Well, actually from June. And receive that $355,000 in cash value to replace the SBAs. At least in my opinion, replace the SBAs. We can discuss that, but that would be my earmark. So you couldn't vote on just to do our balloon payment refinance, or you could vote to refinance. We would pay off the balloon and we would receive approximately $355,000 in cash for SBAs.
And will the 355, will that cover the air packs, or do we need to come in with more than that out of the general fund or grants or some other form?
Scott, do you remember what your approximate was before?
We were looking at close to.
Okay. So we're getting bids right now to answer your question. He just said that before our bids were about $500,000, but those were, I think you only looked at 2 vendors. Is that correct?
Correct.
And since it's a cash value, we would have to look at, or we would be able to look at other vendors and bid them. So there could potentially be savings, but we are getting those bids. Amy's working on getting the bids right now before we even were to move forward with that. I would say this though, regardless, there is a ton of deferred maintenance. Even if we had to do a different venue for those SCBAs, there's a ton of deferred maintenance that we could utilize that money for, quite frankly.
And if the money came in timeline and getting the new SCBAs would be,
When would they be? As soon as we went through the process of, the money would be in June, to answer your question. And Amy is getting bids currently. And then her next step is to put together a committee and bring in the potential vendors. Which she has already identified the committee. I don't believe they have met yet, but she has already identified the committee, and that would be the next step after.
sounds like your preferred option would be option B,
It would be.
and that is to review. That is the,
That would be to pay off our balloon payment, refinance our loan to pay off our balloon payment, and extend the loan with the current payments we currently have, 10 years, netting us approximately $355,000 in cash value.
and you need, what do you need from us? You need a vote on that?
We would need a vote.
Okay. Entertain a motion on that.
I'd make a motion to enter into a contract with SDAO to refinance our loan with Key Bank for our truck and engine and extend the loan to a 10-year period, which would net us approximately $355 in cash value, earmarked for SCBA replacement.
The 10-year extension.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. President Garvin, second.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna skip C just real quick because D is just an update. As you guys saw, it was just a forward from last night. There's no discussion on it tonight because it wasn't in the board packet, but we did receive our standards of cover scope of work and bid from our consultant. So my only ask is that you review that and we'll add it to the packet for next meeting for discussion, for further discussion on. There are 3 options in there, but I want to give you guys time to review it and, do your due diligence.
Thank you.
So I prefer not to talk about it tonight since we'll back.
Okay, to be clear, you'd like us to look at that and bring it back next meeting?
That's correct. I'll be prepared to talk about it next meeting. That's correct. Yes. Civil service. Thank you all that are part of civil service, and I see a couple maybe online. So this is this has been a venture. I think someone in the audience, maybe Richard, asked me how many different fire districts did we did we collect information from? And I would say many. We, when I say we, myself, Vicky, and President Todd, had many meetings, many reviews. I will say, I hate to speak for him because he's not here. I don't know if anybody else from the union is here, but I hate to speak for him, but I would say I do believe that this is a joint agreed upon civil service proposal. We believe that we covered all of the areas required by ORS. We also believe that we work collaboratively from an administrative perspective and a union perspective to not only work through the agreement, but also capture many of the MOAs that they had through their contractual obligations with the district and local 3099. We also had this reviewed from a legal perspective a couple of different times. And those have, though any of those changes, well, with the exception of one that we discussed and I guess was not an issue, if you will, were added and or changed. So from your guys' document, as I emailed you this copy, there are a couple changes, but most of them are bullet points. They didn't like bullet points. They wanted subsection A type thing. It wasn't necessarily a content change. Is that accurate, Vicky?
Yeah, those are not highlighted just because they were minor changes.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, the highlights in your packet are things that we changed after legal review since the first time you received the document. So we wanted to highlight those that they're a change from your the original packet you received, and I can walk through and explain those changes if you'd prefer.
So my question is to the board, how would you like to proceed? We are prepared to go through this page by page as long or as quickly as you would like. And we just want you guys to be able to ask questions, give feedback, yays or nays, and/or ask any clarifying questions if there's something that's confusing.
Okay, I know we've had the opportunity to review this, so won't be necessary, I don't think, to go over line by line, but are there any questions for the fire chief on this? One question I have is, what is the process for amending, revising?
Yeah, you mean once you approve this and it goes in, that would then be a Civil Service Commission amendment. There is correct me if I'm wrong, Vicky, but there is a section for change, correct?
4.2.
Yeah.
I must skip over.
I also want to point out there was one paragraph removed that's not highlighted because it's not there to highlight under 7.2, which made reference to consulting the collective bargaining unit, the local 3099. However, our attorney said the commission cannot obligate the union and the district to enter into negotiations. So we removed that, but that's already an agreement through an MOU with the local, so we don't need to worry about that. I think it might be in their bargaining agreement.
The way it originally read, which is what I talked about earlier with the, I don't want to say disagreement, but one thing I called out to the attorney is that they, in my opinion, they had it read backwards to where the commission would tell the board and the fire chief that they were going to make a change, a major change in a classification, but that would hold us accountable fiscally and or promotionally, and such. And once I explained it to them and we talked about it, there was not a need because they can't do that. They can make a recommendation, but they can't obligate the board. And I used the lieutenant captain. If we had lieutenants, Civil Service Commission can't just decide, you know what, we're going to go to captains and that pay rate, that pay and such. However, the board and or the fire chief could make that recommendation to civil service, and civil service could accept it. So that's the deletion. And as far as from the local standpoint, That part was already covered in their CBA, so there wasn't any reason to have the paragraph for that specific.
Okay,
In
well,
the 8.13, the weighting of the testing for the various positions, were those numbers just like a negotiation with the local, or is that standard procedure throughout the industry, or how did we come to those numbers?
8.1. Yeah.
It's standard. Most of them were standard. Most of them, as I stated earlier, were kind of taken from many different civil service rules. With that said, it was in agreement with Local 3099, yes.
So I didn't get the updated version. I printed this out when it was originally sent out. I don't know if we want to just start and just go maybe rule or section by section. If someone has questions, they can answer or ask a question. If not, just move on real quick through each section.
We are absolutely prepared for that if that's what you'd like, yes.
Are you wanting me going section by section where the changes were, or to go through section by section
No.
for anything?
Just a quick, like, okay, under Rule 6, anyone have any concerns or questions? Nothing. 7, any questions, concerns? Nothing. Moving on. So yeah, not actually reviewing it, but just.
Yeah. Let's
The
start.
civil service rules in your board packet, treasurer trap also have the highlights in it, the embedded PDF.
Okay.
All right, you want to take, just go down the contents, rule 1 on down, and we'll just see if there's any questions with
Yeah.
any individual section.
Perfect.
Any questions on rule 1, general purpose? Hearing none, rule 2, scope of civil service rules. Rule 3 is just the definitions. The change there under the highlighted, correct me if I'm wrong, was just an update. I think we had a couple extras.
Mhm.
So it was just a recommendation from the attorney. This captures everything that falls under the civil service. And then under job descriptions, we utilized a different term and we wanted it consistent across the whole packet. So we changed everything to job description.
Perfect.
Rule 4, adoption and amendment of rules. Yeah. Rule 5, you'll see the highlighted commission. Originally, it stated the fire chief, and under ORS, it states commission. So we changed it to commission.
So do we need to advertise for that position, or is that something that the civil service is going to do after they're appointed?
It would be a civil service appointment, yes. Correct?
Yeah. I think the hope is that whoever's in the administrative director, what was that title?
Yeah.
Administrative director role would be able to fulfill the role as chief examiner, but that is up to the commission to elect that position.
In-
Or appoint that position.
Yeah, in most cases, it's the HR person because they're managing the tests and the fairness and equity of the test. But however, it technically speaking could be appointed by the commission, but the recommendation from myself, at least, would be the administrative services director. That's the most common used.
Okay, thank you.
You have the note. Go ahead.
Rule 6, you'll see we added a paragraph there. This allows the board to remove a commissioner for incompetence, other good cause, things like that. So that paragraph was not there. So we added that in case there's any issues.
Yeah, there is a word there I don't recognize. It's probably a misspelled word, but
Yellow.
Yeah, in the highlighted area, fourth word from the end.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be filed.
Oh,
No,
you don't recognize that?
no, this is the commission language.
Oh, okay. I'm still learning.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then, in 6.2, the second paragraph, it used to say if there's a midterm vacancy, the board within 30 days will elect another commissioner, but we changed that to appoint another commissioner.
Okay.
Rule 7, classification plan. This is where I noted in 7.2 that we removed the paragraph which referred to the language already included in this DBA. Also in 7.4, we changed the title to job descriptions. This is, as Chief mentioned, to use the same language throughout the rules and make it clear that it's job descriptions instead of using the term classifications or something like that. Rule 8, applications and examinations, in 8.2 and 8.3, changing again the term to job descriptions. If there's any other changes in Rule 8, but it is a big rule. So are there questions on Rule 8 before we move on?
I have a question. Is this pretty much going by as far as like, let's say your fire captain or battalion chief? Is this kind of the standard that you currently use as far as qualifications?
The minimum qualifications for all positions, is that what you're referring to?
Correct. For under specifically fire captain and battalion chief.
I would say this, I would say that what we are doing is memorializing maybe past practice and future practice, meaning it might not have been done the same every time. And so we're trying to memorialize historically what's been captured and make sure that it's followed the same way each and every time.
Okay. All right. Have you, just out of curiosity, do your officers or battalion chiefs, do they go through like a Metro Fire Officer Academy or have any wildland training? Is that an expectation or is that just kind of a bonus?
There currently is no requirement for that, correct? Yeah, there currently is no requirement for that currently.
Okay.
And remember, these are all minimum qualifications. So the job description can exceed this, but this would be the minimum qualifications that they would have to.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else on 8? Okay. Rule 9, in 9.3, you'll see the words internal and volunteer highlighted. This is just a note to clarify that any preference for internal employees or volunteers will be added before we add or create the list and ranking on that list.
I do have a question on 9.3, section B. It's so under eligible employees section, the very last sentence, as far as it says, where ties exist, names shall be arranged in order of the candidate whose application was received first. However, earlier sections state that it's based on seniority if there's a tie with internal candidates. So it's just it's kind of a contradictory as far as that section says that, and then earlier states seniority based.
You are correct, and that just needs to be updated. The agreement with the local has always been that it's based on seniority for promotion, so we'll update that. Thank you for catching this.
Yeah.
Anything else on 9? All right, Rule 10, there were no changes, certification and appointment. Right, Rule 11, probationary period, also no changes in this rule. Rule 12 is disciplinary action. There were no changes in this rule either.
I guess I might have a question, just it might be in more of the union side as well. Under 12.4, the last sentence. Are there any other disciplinary actions that are, I guess, a formal process, whether that be like a performance improvement plan or a corrective action plan, to where it's almost a probationary period, even for existing employees, if there was an incident or something that happened?
You're referring to for employees of the local or for the civil service rules?
I'm just looking at, as far as lesser punishments, that last sentence, or administrative action, including oral or written reprimands, suspension with pay. Basically, I didn't see anything in here as far as, it was either dismissed, demoted, suspended without pay. I didn't know if there's some gray area that, just more clarification for me as far as how things are run. If there's under disciplinary stuff, if there's kind of that in between corrective action plans or sort of things like that that are in place.
So F and G, it kind of starts from dismissal, kind of worst case, and then G goes down to an oral reprimand and F is a written reprimand, so you can include those in there.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Right. Rule 13, appeals, investigations, and hearing. There were no changes in this rule either. Rule 14, records and reports, no changes. Rule 15, prohibitions and penalties. The change here was at the first sentence of 15.3 referenced the custodial civil service, so that sentence was removed. Rule 16, no changes.
Any other questions on the rules that was covered?
Todd, do you want to have an opportunity to speak? You were gone, but they asked if this was like a collective agreement, and I kind of explained that the three of us work collectively together, but I wanted you to give your opinion, to speak for you.
Yeah, I think collectively about 8 hours worth of meetings-ish. So yeah, we were very involved in this. And that was just meetings. That wasn't reviewing ahead of time, giving input through emails and all that kind of stuff. That was just meeting and hashing things out. So I don't know exactly where Treasurer Trapp was going, but since I got the mic, I'm going to jump real quick. The first sentence of that discipline section did clarify that we're going to follow the CBA for represented employees. So I don't know if that's where he was going with that. But basically everything that was laid out that he was asking questions about was for people not represented by the CBA or probationary employees. So if that's where you were going with that, I wanted to clarify. That's where it sounded like you were going, but
Yeah,
just for that.
thank
So,
you.
yeah. But no, we were very involved and it was about 8 hours worth of meetings-ish, and 3 different times and a lot of back and forth. So it's a long document to go back and forth on.
Yeah.
So
These rules are important. They provide clarity, consistency, and transparency. So thank you, labor and management, for working together on this.
yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Vicky, too. It was quite frankly, the work job of all of us, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vicky.
All those out to put this together. Thank you. Okay, any more questions?
So my question would be is, are we able to adopt this evening with a vote as amended with the slight wordsmithing around seniority versus application, time of application? And the
Yes.
spelling error that Ray Pratt caught?
Yeah, we could accept a motion and an acceptance, and then with the changes that we document.
Good. Okay, entertain a motion.
Or not.
So moved to adopt the civil service rules as amended.
Okay, in a second.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the civil service rules as amended. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? None, motion passes. Thank you.
So the second part of this, and I think why maybe several people are in the audience, is now we will get these amended and we will get you a fresh copy for your records. But we would be looking for direction from the board on how you would like us to proceed as far as selection of civil service commissioners. We do, I believe, 13.
I think so.
We have 13 that have expressed interest. We would look for direction, how you would like to proceed with that. I think there was discussion prior to, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but setting up some interviews would be one suggestion. And then the second suggestion is would you like us to break it up, because it was how it was written? Would you like us to break up the candidates by fire district and then ASA and then outside of both? Correct? Because that's how it was written. So as I understood it, priority would go to fire district. If there wasn't enough fire district, it would go within the ASA. If there was not enough within the ASA, it would go out.
Break it up in that we would know each candidate where they stood on that.
Yeah, or you could say that we would like to interview, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's something you could say, is I'd like to interview district. If there was enough, I would like to interview that, or we'll interview everybody. It doesn't matter, but.
I remember that being a priority stated by the board. So, and I also know that we aren't at this week on timeline, so.
The only thing I would add is there's also this one previous,
Any idea if we have enough within the fire district?
I'm sorry, what was that?
We have to still look and confirm that. And we'll be happy to do that. There is one other. I should do something. There's
So
one other.
Is the question, do we want to interview these all in a
Yeah.
public setting as a board, a whole board, or do we want to form a committee to interview them and then it's not public meeting? That's a question. And then the other question would be, from my recollection, the way we decided when we started down this path is that we were going to give priority to those within our fire district and then within our ASA, like Chief Godfrey mentioned. And I think, if we want to interview all 13, that's fine. But when we're looking at them for appointment, you definitely need to give priority to the district residents, as that's what we spelled out initially.
Yeah, that's what we discussed, and I think that's where we are by way of consensus. Question then is, what is the timeline for the process of interviewing?
It's your time. We'll make it happen for you.
Okay. So
If I could add one thing.
Sure.
In Rule 6, just so we're all on the same page, there is a rule that the board will ensure the commission has no more than one previous fire service employee and no more than one previous fire service volunteer, just an FYI. So we would also research that for you also.
there'll be some parameters in the process. Understood. Okay. I guess the question for us then is, do we want to do, invite all board members or, avoid a quorum in this process?
In Rule 6 also, there isn't the recommendation in Rule 6 that I believe you approved is that you'll have 2 union members, 2 board members, and the fire chief, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
That would be the recommendation then to the board. We would not make the decision on who. It would be, that is the group that would do the interview, and then that group would recommend to the board would then make the decision.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. Okay, so 2 board members, we can discuss that offline. Which 2 members would like to take part in that process? And we can get back to you on timeline.
Okay.
Does that work?
How would you like us to split them by,
Yes,
okay,
yeah, and then communicate, as you mentioned.
sure.
So is that agreeable to the board?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're gonna split up the candidates by their geographic location and then also notate any fire service experience. And then we'll set a time frame offline as well as identify board members that are interested to serve in those 2 seats on the committee. Is what I heard.
That's correct. Yes, and then what type of timeframe would you like?
Okay, and a time frame.
Yeah, I think it's just important that we give these candidates proper notice, so none of them are disqualified for short notice, not being able to make meetings as they've been patient with us throughout this process.
I'm sorry, that was my other clarifying question is, when I split them by district, by ASA, do you want to interview all of them and know that, or do you want to just interview district, and then if we didn't have enough district, ASA, or would you like to do all 13, for example,
Okay.
and then choose from there?
My preference would be to do them all,
Okay.
since they apply and they're interested, and we want to hear from everybody who's interested. But any other thoughts on that? That align with the rest of the board?
I'd be up for doing all of them as well.
Okay. But President Garber makes a good point about timeline, giving people the opportunity to arrange a time, so it might be a couple weeks out.
It's totally fine.
Okay.
Just let us know a date you would like to shoot for, and we'll make contact with everybody and make sure that they're.
Okay, the board will get back to you ASAP on who, timeline, and can move on.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next topic.
Other business.
Other business. Action required, board committee liaison reports. Any reports from board members?
No Sap and Brandy.
LoSAP? LoSAP?
Yes, we did receive our February statement from Empower. And we had basically a change in value of roughly $600. That's after interest and then payouts. It's down $600. It has been mentioned a couple board meetings now about potential diversification of the investment of that money, and are there other options out there? Chief Law is working with them. And there's other organizations who use the LoSAP program and have diversified the majority of their funds staying in a group annuity, but taking some and diversifying that. And that process is being worked through right now. So hopefully we'll have more on that to come.
Okay, thank you. Director Sparrow, anything on branding?
I didn't know if there was any update from Chief Darby on any of the patches or stickers, or how we're moving forward with putting the new logo on vehicles, that sort of stuff. So I defer to him.
Thank you, Secretary Sparrow, or Director Sparrow, I apologize. The mock-up patch just arrived last week, and it looks really good. I'll share it with you too. Line and the other 3 directors are in person. They came out really well. We're very pleased with it. We did place an order for 5 new patches yesterday. It goes here in about 4 weeks. There was a little bit of a delay in the mock-up, so the Chinese New Year, but we did finally get it. So it looks fantastic. Very pleased with it. As far as branding the vehicle, we were budget stuff can sort it out.
Thank you. Okay, next is board information reports. President Garvin. Anything from you on that?
No, nothing from me for this meeting. Thank you though.
Anybody else? I'll just comment on attending Dennis McMillan's retirement here in town. That was a nice event, and I know the local helped put that together. And it seemed well attended, and I thought it was really nice thing to do, and well done. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I think that's it. Next is department reports.
So a few things, on the horizon for us. You'll see in the month of April, that, we will be wearing, autism awareness shirts, kind of like what we did with the breast cancer awareness shirts. One of our, members took this upon himself. It's a passion project of his. And, so he has those shirts ordered. The proceeds from those shirts will go to buy Fraser bags. If you don't know, Fraser bags we have those on all of our vehicles here. And they're, sensory bags for when we go on special needs individuals, and we can just give them out if it's a bystander that's, worked up, or a patient. And then, the new Fraser bags are going to be donated to the Henderson House. And any leftover proceeds, we'll be buying them for the local law enforcement to have as well. So that's coming up in April. Looking forward to having HR and finance in-house. We've had some, we'll call it complicated FMLA issues lately. That would be great to have some in-house folks to help us work through some of that stuff. But so we're looking forward to getting those folks in-house. Did have another paycheck hiccup this last paycheck, or 2 paychecks ago, I guess, that has gotten squared away on this one. Hopefully, getting someone in will help kind of alleviate those issues as well. So, about what I got.
Okay, thank you for the report.
Yep.
President Goodman, anything to report? And fire chief's report.
Well, I can piggyback on that other topic then. We did give contingent job offers to an administrative service director as well as a finance manager. We held a process, Secretary Pratt was part of that process. I'll let him speak if he has anything. It was a competitive process. We actually started with 4 administrative services and 3 finance. I think ultimately, we ended up with 2 day of HR and or administrative services and 3 finance. I did offer positions to 2 of those individuals. They're currently in both a financial background as well as a criminal background. Just due to the fact of their closeness to the money, we went a little extra and are looking at the financial side also. Also, just for I guess everybody's edification and or question, this process was not just an interview process, application process. After the conference at the coast that Secretary Pratt, myself, and President Garvin went to, I also reached out to 4 different HR consulting firms. I had real good luck with an IT consulting firm, working with them on potentially switching our IT over. I did reach out to HR Answers, HR Solutions, Fingerhold Consulting, and Workplace Results. Ultimately, what we need done is significantly greater, more work than what they are capable of doing. 2 of the 4 have made it very clear you need to hire someone full-time. And I only gave them 5 projects, and unfortunately I have about 25, 30 for each one of them. So it was good feedback. They definitely were very positive of what we thought we needed to move forward successfully. They definitely thought that we were on the right track, but they were not prepared to shoulder the load of that work. Many of them did offer to take on one of those 20 or 25 at $175 an hour. I say that only because doing due diligence, I did look at, okay, what if we did it part-time? What if we hired them 20 hours a week at $175 an hour? That was 185,000, if I remember correctly, somewhere right, 180,000. Which is significantly more than we even hired a full-time FTE. One of the FTEs that we did hire also comes with some additional background. She does happen to be an attorney, which is not per se part of the job description, but it's a benefit for us. We're spending about $8,000 a month on attorneys also. So at the end of the day, we have been expending the $182,374 that the board approved in July. And we are set to also expend that for the second half, which is a total of $364,748. Hiring the two FTEs, we're at about 300, this is with roll-ups. We're at about $303,424 with roll-ups. So it's about 33,000 less than what the board had envisioned us expending on those two services. But remember, that also does not include the legal services that we won't have, except for major. We will hire obviously outside major, but contract reviews, things like that, we'll be able to do in-house. So I think we fairly looked at it. A lot of the stuff, whether it be cancer presumption, whether it be employee handbooks, whether it be the current rules for sick leave and those type of requirements that we work under, they're very specific and they're very detailed. And what we have, I have a phenomenal staff that works their back ends off every day, all day. But these are not in our wheelhouse. Payroll, as the president said, that is something that we assumed, but that's a very difficult, detailed job for someone who has the experience to do that. So I personally am very much looking forward to these two individuals starting, pending the background, of course. And I really think it's going to boost morale. I also think it's going to boost our ability to put out work product and good work product. And I also feel and absolutely believe that a lot of stuff that we're currently having to contract out at very high contractual rates, we'll be able to do in-house. Like I said, my staff already works very hard and they do a very good job at what they're trained in, but those things will be able to be, managed by people who manage that type of stuff. So I'll open that up for questions or comments or concerns.
I'd just like to say it was a very competitive process. We had some good candidates, some that weren't prepared, but it was good for them to take the testing process. We ended up with a couple of really, really good people. Well qualified.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, I'll just say thank you for looking at lots of options, giving it a lot of good consideration. It sounds like you're on a good track. Thank you.
Just an update. I have a meeting Friday with the individuals from the air show. We are having to split off of the city's contract that we always fell under. I had a great, I actually met the city manager today. I had a great meeting with the police chief last week. As far as boots on the ground, we're just going to do the same thing. Chief Hannafin is still going to do the IAP for the plan, but all of the managerial side of things that the fire department at the time was assigned will be assumed by city employees, predominantly the police chief. We will still work collaboratively. We're in all the meetings, but we will have to work towards our own agreement for contract services, inspections, reimbursement and such. So we're working through that process and we'll get that taken care of. The show is Labor Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with practice on that Friday. So we already have sent out an email to all of our staff checking on availability since it is a holiday weekend, so. Any questions on that? FEMA grant update, thanks to Chief Law, President Godfrey for the IFF help. Chief Law did get the grant submitted. The IFF helped us tremendously, and when I say IFF, I mean the international side. The president used his tools in his toolbox to reach out. We got some really good feedback, some things that I didn't know about when you write the grants. We were able to put the IFF's name on the bottom as someone who helped us, which is a good deal when they're reviewing it. So it apped in, now it's the fingers crossed and hurry up and wait. So. Questions on that? OSFM staffing grant, we did apply for the $35,000 again. Again, Chief Law, thank you. He was at his desk at 8 o'clock in the morning because it's a first come, first serve. And he hit the go button just very shortly after 8 o'clock. So we did what we could to be successful. To put it in perspective, the money is first come, first serve, and it does start for budgets under $2 million. So depending on how many departments or districts they got under 2 million, there may or may not be money left over. But again, thanks to Chief Law, he hit the go button right after 8. So if it does go past that, I think we're in that top tier at least. So
How can those funds be utilized?
yeah, so predominantly it can be utilized for many things. Most of it staffing in the summertime is the intent. We are working through our labor management. We have labor management meetings every month. We rotate who runs the meeting between the IFF Local 3099 and ourselves. We are working with them on how we're going to staff. I have met with President Goodman also and his lieutenants. And so it will likely be a combination volunteer career staffing model. But we're still discussing those and working through those. But to put it in perspective, potential upstaffing of grass rigs, potential upstaffing of water tenders, potentially upstaffing an engine if necessary. We don't have the exact because we haven't finalized with either one of the groups yet, but we are well on our way and everybody's working well together. Good, thank you. Website. The website is being worked on. I check in on it every week. This is kind of can you see that, President Garvin? Can you go to the home screen, please?
Home screen?
Yeah, just hit the patch. City IT is who is contracting this. It's going through a third party. And we have provided all the information that he has requested. He did request a couple redo photos, which we are working on right now. And we're hurry up and waiting, let's put it that way. But he has the bones, I would say, but the information that we've provided has not been inputted yet. I do check on this every week, and sometimes twice a week. President Garvin, do you recognize that firefighter there? So anyways, we're working on it. We're pushing as hard as we can, but I'd like it to be done sooner than later, but this is what we've got so far. Okay, thank you. Radio system update. We are, again, this is just a quick update. We are still working with the county commissioners, the county sheriff, as well as the fire district on what our next radio system looks like, the replacement, the funding, the purchasing, the maintenance, and upkeep and such. So we're still working through that. I would say that the county commissioners have really stepped up in the last, I'll call it, couple of weeks. I think they understand the need and the complexity, and I am happy that they're at least looking at it from a larger picture than maybe was being presented to them in the past. Not to their fault, but There was one vendor that kind of had their ear, and I do appreciate them. They're kind of looking more to the outside and don't know who or what, but at least they're looking at it globally, and I do appreciate that. And they have given that. Business cards and shirts. We have ordered you guys polos as well as business cards. Your business cards will have all your contact information as well as your board. And then your shirts, I believe you guys all got sizes too. Okay. And then the gap loan that we talked about last board meeting, I did reach out to Mr. Albright from SDAO again. We're not, he's dragging his feet on that. Just, it's not something that needs to be put in immediately. Just hoping interest rates go down. So we're kind of playing the interest rate game. For those of you that don't remember, that's the amount of money that gets us from July 1st to November 30th, prior to us receiving our taxes from our tax bill. So we'll continue to work on that, and it'll probably be a couple months before we apply, but it's not a long process. So according to him, I've never done it, but that's his guidance. That's all I have, unless there's questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Correspondence?
None.
None here. Anybody else? Correspondence? Info items?
Tomorrow night is the awards banquet, Youngberg Hill. We hope to see everybody there. Unfortunately for all you guys, except for President Garvin, I do need Director Sparrow and Treasurer Traff. If I could get just a headshot from you guys tonight, you can text it to me. They just want it for a quick portion of the PowerPoint, as well as actually the website will need it also. Under board members, there's a spot and the good news is you got a haircut just for it.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's excellent. I appreciate you doing this. And then we have started our first meeting, I believe is, I hate to say it, but I think it's April 4th. 3rd or 4th. For our the kickoff to our 150th year anniversary planning for the Fire Now District Historical Department. So we've got a committee that's that stood up for that, and there'll be more information to follow, but we'll keep you updated on that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Next meeting is Thursday, March 28th, right here at 6 p.m. And with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody. Good job. At 7:05. 7:09.